Good morning. The US benchmark S&P 500 and technology-heavy Nasdaq indexes advanced for a fourth consecutive session on Monday as investors geared up for a slew of mega-cap earnings and a US Federal Reserve update on interest rate policy later this week. Both indexes hit their highest levels in more than a week and registered their longest string of advances since December. At the close of trade on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Index rose by 314 points or 0.6%. The broader S&P 500 index gained 35 points or 0.5%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq index added 100 points or 0.4%. Gains in a handful of mega-cap names did most of the heavy lifting for the S&P 500, with Apple and Meta platforms adding over 2% each. Alphabet, Broadcom and Microsoft rose over 0.9% each. Communication services was the strongest performing S&P 500 sector, up 1.3%, with technology shares next best, up 0.8%. Apple and Meta, along with Microsoft and Tesla, are slated to report quarterly results later this week, setting up a key test for a rally powered by a euphoria around artificial intelligence. Investors will look for signs of measurable payoffs from AI spending. With concerns over high valuations in the tech space, guidance will be especially important, and even as a modest stumble could spark a rethink about the AI trade. Equities rose on Monday even after US President Donald Trump over the weekend threatened to slap a 100% tariff on goods coming into the US from Canada if the country makes a trade deal with China. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said in response that Ottawa has no intention of pursuing a free trade deal with Beijing. Investors were keeping an eye on Washington as growing outrage over federal immigration agents fatally shooting a US citizen in Minnesota for the second time this month generated concerns of a potential US government shutdown. Several Democratic senators said they would not approve a $1.2 trillion funding package if it includes an allotment for homeland security. On the S&P 500 index, Arista Networks and Datadog flexed their muscles with lifts of 5.4% and 5% respectively overnight. Trade Desk was among noteworthy decliners, sliding 7.5%. Gold prices rallied on Monday as investors sought safety amid the rising political and fiscal risks, with the metal reaching a new all-time high and surpassing $5,100 per ounce. The S&P 500 materials sector gained 0.3% as gold vaulted to a record high, boosting names such as Newmont, Goldfields and Harmony Gold, which rose between 0.4% and 1.9%. Oilfield services company Baker Hughes rose 4.4% after fourth quarter results topped Wall Street estimates. Shares of USA Rare Earth soared 7.9% after reports the US administration was taking a 10% stake in the miner as part of a $1.6 billion debt and equity investment package. Artificial intelligence play CoreWeave jumped 5.7% after Nvidia said it would invest $2 billion in the cloud infrastructure firm. Meanwhile, airline stocks dropped due to mass disruptions in flight schedules after a massive winter storm hit the eastern United States. JetBlue lost 3.8%. Intel shares continue to slide, down 5.7%, following its steepest drop in nearly 18 months on Friday after it forecast quarterly profit and revenue below estimates. US Treasuries rose with yields lower on Monday after robust demand for an auction of two-year notes showed that expectations for US Federal Reserve interest rate cuts later this year remain a powerful inducement for buyers of US government debt. Long maturity yields had already declined to the lowest levels in a week before the auction as France led rallies for most government bond markets worldwide. Shorter dated tenors joined the rally after the auction revealed that investors were willing to accept lower than anticipated yields. US orders for durable goods increased in November by the most in 6 months, boosted by bookings for commercial aircraft and other capital equipment. Orders for durable goods items meant to last at least 3 years rose 5.3% after a revised 2.1% decline a month earlier. Fed policymakers are expected to leave rates unchanged on Wednesday after cuts at each of their past three meetings in response to signs of job market weakening. Traders still see the central bank as likely to deliver 2 more this year. The US Treasury sold $69 billion worth of two-year notes at a yield of 3.58% into strong demand. The US 10-year Treasury yield dipped 2 points to 4.22%, and the US 2-year Treasury yield decreased 1 point to 3.59%. European share markets ended higher on Monday. Earnings from several major lenders such as Germany's Deutsche Bank and Britain's Lloyds are due later this week, and earnings from financials overall are expected to increase 4% according to data compiled by LSEG. Banks led gains among sectors, rising 1%. The continent-wide FTSE Euro First 300 index rose 0.2%. In London, the UK FTSE 100 index inched up 0.1%. In commodity markets, all prices settled lower on Monday after climbing more than 2% in the previous session as investors assessed the impact on output in US crude-producing regions from winter storms and the impact of any tensions between the US and Iran. US oil producers lost up to 2 million barrels per day, or roughly 15% of national production over the weekend, analysts and traders estimated as a winter storm swept across the country, straining energy infrastructure and power grids. The Brent crude price fell by 0.4% to $65.59 a barrel, and the US NYMEX crude price slipped 0.7% to $60.63 a barrel. The gold futures price jumped 2.1% to $5,082.50 an ounce on Monday as investors sought a safe haven amid international political tension after earlier hitting a record of $5,110.50 an ounce. Copper futures rose 1.2% as attention returned to expectations of strong demand and supply disruptions. Aluminium futures gained 1.3%. Iron ore, however, dipped 0.2% to $106.15 a tonne as traders remain cautious amid a tepid geopolitical backdrop. Australian shares are poised to open higher after a three-day break, bolstered by surging precious metal prices on Tuesday. According to latest SPI futures, the ASX 200 index is expected to open the day 39 points or 0.4% higher this morning. BHP and Rio Tinto shares could have had a good session on Tuesday after their London-listed shares charged higher overnight. Both miners finished the session almost 2% higher on the London Stock Exchange in response to rising base and precious metal prices. In Australia on Tuesday, the NAB Business Survey is released for December. Commonwealth Bank economists will continue to closely monitor capacity utilisation and measures of price pressures to gauge the outlook for inflation. In local company news, ASX-listed international oil and gas exploration and production company Karoon Energy provides a fourth quarter update. China is due to release December industrial profits on Tuesday. US data on home prices, consumer confidence and manufacturing are all scheduled as well. On Wall Street, Boeing, General Motors, Kimberly-Clark, United Health and United Parcel Service are all expected to release fourth quarter earnings on Tuesday. The US dollar slipped across the board on Monday and the Japanese yen jumped to a more than 2-month high as speculation mounted of coordinated currency intervention by authorities in the US after remarks from Tokyo's Prime Minister and Japan's leading currency diplomat. The Aussie dollar lifted from 69.07 US cents to 69.39 US cents and was near 69.20 US cents at the US close after hitting its highest level since September 2024. For further developments on today's local trading session, please tune into the CommSec Market Update podcast this afternoon. Thanks for tuning in and have a great day.